If you clicked on this video because you saw the words Tahiti and French Polynesia, I get it. I've been drawn to my next guest eye catch an Instagram post from the Bahamas to the Panama Canal across the Pacific and now in Tahiti, French Polynesia. And she's been covering some serious sailing miles. I know very little about this guest. So tonight, together, we find out who she is and what she's all about. Let me put up this banner here because I need a solid. If you could please do me a favor, like, subscribe, share this video, and drop your comment in the live chat on YouTube or Facebook so we can respond in real time, including my guest. So I'm Captain Tinsley of Salty Abandon and Island Packet 320 Sailboat, and this is the Salty Podcast, episode 55. Please help me welcome straight out of Tahiti at Saskia sailing on Instagram, and her name is Saskia. So here she comes, and there she is.
Hi.
Everything, I can hear you, I can see you, and can you see and hear me?
Yeah, I can perfectly.
Okay, great. All right, like I said, I don't know much about you, so you don't give a lot of clues on your Instagram. I'm like, whoa, where is she? I don't know
Well,
where you started or how big, what's the
yeah.
name of the boat or anything.
Yeah, that's not really intentional, but I just started. Well, we've been sailing for 3 years, but I only started my Instagram a year ago when we
I
left to
see.
sail across the Pacific. And I actually only started it to share where I was and like my little daily update with like my extended family. I have a very big extended family. And so crossing the Pacific, I didn't want to use a lot of internet to send 10 or 15 messages to all our different, both me and my husband, all of our different family members. So I thought I'll just tell everyone to go to this Instagram page and I'll post an update every day of where we are and a little bit about what we're doing. And then everyone can just all keep updated in one spot. And
So how many followers do you have now?
I think like 8,000 or 9,000
Let's see.
something.
Oh yeah, 9648. Very impressive.
So yeah, it was just going to be for my nana and all my cousins. But I think at the same time when I was sailing, there was a couple of female like solo sailors doing some cool stuff, and it kind of got a lot of people interested in sailing. And so my daily updates got pushed out to a lot of people that I wasn't expecting. So that's why I'm not intentionally have been mysterious or anything. I just started posting for my family, and now other people have joined in.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
they probably knew exactly where you were, and you didn't have to give so many clues. So,
I could just say Kyle, and everyone that was reading knew that that's my husband. We've been married for 6 years, so everyone sort of knew. And then,
are you solo right now, or is your husband?
No, my husband's with me as well.
Okay.
And so we have been sailing just the two of us. Well, we've been on the boat for 6 years, and we've been cruising for 3 years, just the two of us with friends and family coming on board just for a couple of weeks here and there. And actually, just 2 weeks ago was the first time we've ever gotten crew in. So we have 2 crew now from New Zealand as well. For this next little leg, because we're going to be moving a fair bit between Tahiti and Fiji. We'll be moving quite quickly for us, at least. So we got crew. So it's me, my husband, and Michaela and Jacob are our crew.
Okay, so tell me where you're from. I'm trying to figure out the accent.
It's a little confusing. Well, my accent is confusing. I'm from Australia. I grew up in Sydney, moved up to Brisbane and the Gold Coast, Queensland for work. And that's where I met my husband, my now husband. And he is from America. He's from Texas originally.
That's what I thought. I heard some Southern in there. I think you might be picking up some good old Texas Southern talk.
Yes, I definitely have. My in-laws Texan through and through, so I'm sure it's kind of I've picked it up. And then also I lived in Florida. We lived in Key West for 3 years before we left to go cruising. Okay. So there's a little bit of all of the South.
Right.
In there.
So what a great mix. So where did you buy the boat? Oh, tell us about the boat. Tell us what the name of it is and what kind of boat.
So the name is 42, like the number, and she's a 40-foot Jeanneau San Odyssey 409 from 2012.
Okay. And that's the age of the boat. I mean, it was built in 2012, or do you bought it in 2000?
No, it was built in 2012
Wow. Okay. And where did you buy it?
in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And okay. All right. And here's where you can reach her. I only found you on Instagram, so
Yeah.
but that's where I found you. Okay, so where did you started from Fort Lauderdale, and then where did you go?
We bought the boat in Fort Lauderdale, and we just sailed down to Key West, so it's just a short
Right.
few 100-mile sail, and then we lived there for 3 years, and
Where did you live there?
In Key
I know
West.
those waters. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were just living in the mooring field at first when we first
Okay.
arrived, and then we ended up moving into Stock Island Marina, which is, I think it's just called the Perry Marina now.
Yes. Yes. I've stayed there several times. Yeah.
Yeah. So we ran our charter out of there for 3 years, or just under 3 years. And we were doing a sailing and scuba diving charter on 42 on our boat.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. You didn't live in Coconut Row?
We did. Yeah, we did live in Coconut Row. Yeah.
So we probably know some of the same people. So here's one that lives in Coconut Row right here. Miss Mike. And he knows you.
Oh, hi.
Oh, maybe he knows you, Mike. Well, they just sold everything in Ohio or Iowa, and then they moved on to an island packet in Coconut Row.
Cool. Nice
Yeah.
one.
Do you know-
It's cool to hear that's still happening.
Yeah.
There was, when we left 3 years ago, there was some movements, some changes.
Wanted to get rid of it and turning it to a big place for yachts.
Yeah, basically, which was a bummer, and that's sort of what made us. We were planning on going cruising anyway, but we got a little push a bit earlier than planned because they were sort of shut down part of our business.
Oh, they did. Oh, was it for the okay?
Because we were advertising on Airbnb, and they didn't like that, so they said no.
Gotcha.
Okay, we'll go sailing instead. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So we lived on Coconut Row for a while. We were on a boat there. We were living on a boat there called Hadley, but we've since sold that boat.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, these guys are early. They're new to sailing, so they're looking for inspiration from you. So
well, that's where we started our journey.
Sure.
And I think the Keys are a great place to start. To we always say it was such a great place to cut our teeth. Like, we knew we had sailed, and I haven't sailed my whole life or anything, but neither has my husband. But we'd been sailing for a while. But the Keys are so great. It's shallow, but you get to learn a lot of things that really pay off when you get cruising in the wider area. Like, actually in the Bahamas, we spoke to a lot of people that were unfamiliar with such shallow waters or little passes and little islands, and they were familiar to us because we'd cruised the Keys, and the Keys have all of those things. So yeah, it's a great place to start.
Sure. And last week I did a podcast with a couple of my friends that one lives in Key West Bight Marina and one lives in Coconut Row at the Perry. And we talked specifically, which I've done a lot of anchoring and, boating and sailing in the Keys. We talked just about going the different anchorages in the lower Keys. So, because you can really operate on a budget, especially if you know how to fix your own boat.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest expense.
Oh, for sure. We always say that, we're always figuring out a way to do it ourselves. It's just how you.
Are you pretty good at that?
Yeah, mostly. There's most of the time we can do everything ourselves. Occasionally it does get to the point where we can't. We had an issue with our outboard engine, for example, and we were out in an island group here in French Polynesia called the Tuamotus, which is so remote, like as remote as it gets, really. And then, we were having an issue with our outboard, and we tried everything that we could service, like absolutely everything, even down to getting the fuel injectors out and attaching them to like a battery and a dive tank to clean them, like everything we could.
Wow.
And that definitely taught us even more than we knew about servicing outboards. But in the end, we couldn't fix it. So we had to wait until we came to Tahiti to take it to a dealer. And it ended up being something in the very center of the engine that we couldn't get to. So most of the time you can, but occasionally you can't. But yeah, really, I think it's a handful of times.
That's good. If you can do it mostly, boy, you save so much money.
So much. It's we couldn't cruise if we had to pay someone to do all of our boat work. It wouldn't happen.
Very fortunate. So my friend Cheryl here, she wants to know what brought you to America. And I know that she met her husband here, or I think it was did you meet here?
I know. I met him in Australia. He was living on the Gold Coast working at a scuba dive shop there, diving with manta rays. And we met through mutual friends, but he introduced me to the world of boats and diving. And I grew up on the water, but not scuba diving and not sailing. So he expanded that a little bit for me. And then we made the decision to move to America together.
Wow. And so, all right. So the Keys, and then what?
Then we went to the Bahamas. We went to the Bahamas for 3 months. We cruised there with some of our friends. They were on there, we buddy boated with some friends, the Bahamas, for 3 months, and we just loved it so much. The Bahamas it's amazing. We just loved it.
Beautiful.
Anyone that's cruised there, just, I think it forever has a place in your heart. And then after the Bahamas, we went up the East Coast of the States. And
you went north.
Yeah, we went north for cyclone season. We decided to go north. We had my sister-in-law works up north in Massachusetts for summer. So we went up there and spent a bit of time up there. And that was very new sailing to us. We'd done sort of Keys, Florida, Bahamas, and suddenly there's these like regal navy blue boats, and it was all
it's the Mecca up there. It's the mothership for sailing.
Yeah, we were in Newport around the boat show time, and we're in Martha's Vineyard and all these places that we were like, oh, we wouldn't be going here if we didn't sail in ourselves. But that was really interesting as well. And then we sailed back south, and we actually got to sail through the Annapolis boat show, which was really cool to be able to, dinghy up to the boat show.
Yeah.
And then
that was the one in the fall or October or whatever, the largest sailboat show in the world, that show.
Yeah, it's huge. It was amazing to see all of these boats and be able to anchor out the front of it was so special. Definitely one of my highlights. And then back down to the Bahamas, and we did the Bahamas for another, I think, 4 months. And then from the Bahamas, we sailed down to Jamaica, which was an unexpected stop, but and also a highlight. We loved Jamaica. We went into Port Antonio there, which is very safe. There are some parts that are less safe, but Port Antonio was amazing, especially after the Bahamas. The lack of fresh food there, to go to Jamaica and just have all of this abundance.
Oh, is that right? There's more fresh food in Jamaica.
So much, yeah. And then from Jamaica, we went to Panama. We paused in Panama for 9 months. We went back to the States and did some work, saved up the kitty again, and then crossed the canal last February.
That cool video. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. February. We got to have my dad, my father-in-law, and my sister-in-law as our crew, because you have to have 4 people, 4 crew and your captain.
Okay.
And so, we got to have all of our family as our line handlers. Crossing the canal was amazing. It was terrifying. It was one of the scariest things that I've done on the boat.
I saw a picture or a video of a huge tanker right in front of you.
Yeah, it was. So they pay you up and to go through the lock, and there was a big, what are they called? Like truck transport ships. And it was so big, and every lock gets just a little bit smaller. So by the first one, you're maybe there's 100 yards, 300 feet between you and the boat, and you think that's so close. And then by the 6th lock, you're 30 feet away from this thing, and it's just straight up in front of you. It was not my favorite thing, but it was, these people are professionals and they do it every day. So it sort of runs like a well-oiled machine.
Right. So you really do need 4 people and a captain. If you guys want to see those videos that they took of going through the canal, there it is on Instagram. So Goose here has a question. Yeah. This is Goose. That's his nickname. What's the most important piece of sailing gear you have, and what was the most disappointing and or biggest waste of money? Those are good questions.
Oh, that's good.
What did you spend money on? You're like, I wish we hadn't spent money on that.
Well, the thing you always want to waste money on is insurance. I mean, like, if you're going to have insurance, you want it to be a waste. That's like, I don't want to have to claim anything, But the most important piece of sailing gear, I mean, for me, is my crew, like my team, Kyle, my husband. Like, I know that lots of people do it solo, and that is absolutely cool if you do that. But I think if you're cruising with someone, you have to be able to trust them completely and know each other's grooves and in and outs and be able to communicate with them, whether that's a partner or a friend or, a crew that come aboard. I think if you have someone on the boat, you have to have absolute trust and confidence and great communication with them. And then I think if you're cruising solo, you just have that in yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And with your boat as well. And you just have to have that trust with your boat. I think if you lose that trust and communication with your boat, it all breaks down. But the biggest waste of money, I'm sure there's so many.
You'd recommend a water maker?
Oh, the one of the best things we have spent money on has been our water maker. Yeah, I think depends where you cruise. I think if you cruised in the Keys or if you're cruising in the Bahamas, you absolutely can do it without a water maker. I don't know. I'm sure there's other places as well. I just haven't cruised them.
Yeah,
but
the deeper you go into the Caribbean, the more expensive water is because it becomes rare.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we were in Panama, we were there during dry season at first, and water was expensive because they were either catching it or making it. And so water got really expensive.
Like how much? Someone said, I think Bahamas is like 50 to 60 cents a gallon.
And yeah, I think that would be the upper level, somewhere from like 20 to 60 cents a gallon in the Bahamas. Sounds about right. Some places in when we were in Georgetown, at least it was free.
And so there's a place there.
Yeah, you definitely can. I think you just have to plan your cruising more around it. Whereas the water maker gives us just such freedom to be able to, like, we bought a boat to be able to go where we wanted. It's lovely to be able to get there and then stay there because we have water. And also for us, I want to be comfortable when I'm sailing. So I like, I have a lot of hair. My husband has a lot of hair. I like to be able to rinse down after a swim and everything. So that was a big expense that I'm glad that we spent the money on. I mean, yeah, there's lots of things that you hope you never use, like a life raft, but I hope that's a waste of money. I'm sure
if you don't have it, that's going to be bad.
yeah. I mean, we paid $100 for docking our dinghy in the Bahamas once. That was a waste of money. That was the biggest waste of money I've ever done in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we needed to pick someone up, and they just said, okay, we'll just charge you. It's $100 no matter what minimum, no matter what size your boat is. So it was our dinghy. So it was $100 for the day for the dinghy.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Wow. Where was that? Was that in Georgetown? Or?
No, it was in Nassau, and I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the marina, but it was in the city near-ish to the airport, and it was just these huge, just super yachts and charter boats, just not our normal. We weren't their normal crowd.
Yeah, I remember going in that harbor, and it's a little intimidating. They have different rules for that Nassau harbor.
Yeah,
you got to make certain announcements that you don't normally, and there are some big boats in there, big ships.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
Yeah, and I was scared to go under those bridges because I don't remember it didn't readily say how tall they were. It wasn't easy. So
Yeah,
it's not like here where you see it,
perfectly. Yeah, it's written everywhere 10 times super clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was calling
Yeah.
people on the radio, what's the height of that?
And it always looks so close, even if it's like
It
200
does.
feet up, it looks like you're just scraping through.
I know.
Ooh.
It's a little scary. My husband
Yeah.
was like, you're going to be fine. I'm like, it looks close.
It looks too close.
Because I've seen what happens when people hit a bridge.
Yeah.
It's not a good day. It's not a good
very bad day.
Okay, so you go to where you were at the Panama Canal, you go through that, and then what happens? I'm going to bring up a map.
We left from Panama just maybe a week after we crossed the canal, and we sailed all the way across the Pacific to French Polynesia.
Now look at this. Look how far that is. I mean,
I know. Whenever I'm on Google Maps and I zoom out, I'm like, I am in the middle of nowhere. So
let's find it. Where is it? It's right.
A little further south.
Is it right here?
No, a little further south.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep going. It's past Honduras.
Okay.
Past Nicaragua.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
There we go. So we sailed through the Panama Canal, which is there from Colón up in the top to Panama City in the bottom.
Okay.
And then from there, we sailed out to, we just did a couple last minute provisions there, and we sailed out to Los Perlas, which is that group of islands that you can see just there.
Right there?
Uh-huh. And then from there, we left and we sailed all the way to Fatu Hiva in French Polynesia. Which was,
oh my gosh! So is this where I talked to you when we were talking before? Was you were here?
No. So we crossed the Pacific last year. So we crossed.
Okay.
We crossed from Los Perlas all the way to the Marquesas, which
you are my hero.
And then if you go up to the right, see where you see Nuka Hiva, Uahuka, and Tahuata.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is where we sailed into after 30 days at sea, and we arrived.
Wow.
Actually, you know what? It was nearly a year ago today. It was like March 25th. We arrived, and if you go, just go a little further south than these islands. See just a touch. See that Fatu Hiva?
Yeah.
That's where we sailed into. It's a place called the Bay of Virgins, that Hanavave up the north.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the first anchorage we went into.
Oh, look at that. Okay, there's a little thing going on here.
I don't know if you can pull up like any pictures of that anchorage, but it's tiny, like it's very narrow, and then it's just absolute cliffs. Yeah, see those cliffs that just come up out of the ocean.
Wow.
And it's a really deep anchorage. The first time we anchored was in 100 feet of water. That was the most shallow we could get in the bay.
And here, there's 100.
Wow. It's 100 because those cliffs just keep going. Just like it goes all the way down. And so that's the first place we dropped anchor after 30 days of being at sea and seeing nothing but ocean. You just see these massive cliffs and rock faces that look like people's faces. And this little town is so sweet. That's where we first went for a walk when we got there, and people will be like, hey, you want, not in English, but they'll say, hey, you want some bananas or some mangoes? Or we went to a lady's house there for lunch, and she cooked us poisson cru, which is like the local dish of raw fish, raw tuna in coconut milk. And some like wild
Sounds delicious. I love food with coconut milk. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this looks like a quaint little place here.
It's super, super cute. I have some pictures and some videos of that town because it was amazing. And we met this guy who carves the tikis, the classic tikis out of rocks that are the volcanic rocks that are from the beach. And his son is like the dancer and tattoo artist of the town, and so he was just like explaining all the history. And I happened to have my good camera on me, and I was taking some photos of the guy's art because he has a man in Papeete here in Tahiti that sells his artwork, but he didn't have any photos. I was like, cool, I'll take some photos for you. and I could send them to my phone, and then he was like, oh, my son's got Instagram, I think. You can send them to him on Instagram. And so I did, and he was like, okay, well, can you take photos of me now in my full like ceremonial outfit? And like, I'm not a professional photographer by any stretch. I'm making little Instagram videos mostly. So and so he came out, he had the full headdress on, and he's like, he's covered in tattoos, the traditional tattoos, and standing in this lush garden. And I was just like snapping photos of this guy, this amazing warrior, in doing the full warrior poses, and just thinking, how did I get here? Like, how did this happen? How am I going to this man's photos? And I sent them to him, and he was like, super grateful. And now we've connected a little bit on socials as well. And so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's such an amazing town, and people don't even really speak that much French there. They just speak Marquesan, which is the.
Did you pick that up?
Marquesan? No, unfortunately, it's well, I mean, a little bit. Ka'oha is hello, because it's quite similar. Basically, the people that lived there then split hundreds and hundreds of years ago and went partially north to Hawaii and partially south to New Zealand. So it's sort of a mix.
Some of those words overlap, like haole and
mahalo,
like and
Ka'oha, similar to aloha. There's lots of similarities. So we picked up a little, but it's not very widely spoken. So we were only there for a few weeks before we moved on, unfortunately. And even those North Islands and the South Marquesan Islands speak two pretty different languages.
Wow.
So,
did you go up there?
Yeah, we went to Hiva Oa, which is the island north. We actually had a leak. We discovered that we had a leak in our sail. We've got a sail drive on our boat. And we had a leak under the water. We discovered about 10 days into crossing the Pacific, which was not fun because we really couldn't turn back. And it was just a small leak, but the oil was a little bit milky in the lower unit. So we ended up doing like 8 oil changes across the Pacific, and then got hauled. It was like on the boat rocking. Like, it was.
I was going to ask you, how calm was it? I saw some video. I'm not sure if it was of the crossing.
It was not the Pacific crossing of my dreams.
It's supposed to be passive. That's the whole name, right? But
I was prepared for these big, long, billows, Rude. It was not. We had
were you okay? Do you ever you got a little? I think you did mention that you do get seasick sometimes.
I got a little seasick. Yeah, I didn't used to. It's sort of slowly creeping up on me a little.
Okay.
Annoyingly. But for about the last 2 weeks of the crossing, I was not terribly seasick. I think I only threw up once or twice, but just uncomfortable, And we had the
kind of queasy.
Just didn't really want to. I didn't really feel like eating. I didn't really feel like going downstairs. It was just sort of like
sure.
So we just had swell, and it was short, but it was just big enough to kind of knock the boat over and just knock the wind out of the sails, so they would flap and crack and sort of throw you off your seat, and then wouldn't do it for 2 or 3 minutes, and then it would do it again 2, 3, 5 minutes later. They would
hard to get comfortable in that.
And it was not repetitive. If it was just continuously, you'd get the boat would get into a groove. And no matter what we tried to change angles, we tried to change everything we could, and we just couldn't get it to be any better. And we got to the end, and we were like, have we forgotten how to sail or something?
The water and the winds weren't cooperating.
And then we got to that anchorage, and we just went to Rangiroa. We love Rangiroa. I just saw
is that in Tahiti?
It's in French Polynesia. It's the next group of islands we went to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're going to bring that up. Thanks, Goose.
Yeah, sorry. I got distracted there. But when we got to the anchorage in the Marquesas, there was, I think, 12 other boats there. And every single one was like...
And we're talking about these islands right here, right?
Yeah. So the south one is the first one we got to, Fatu Hiva.
Right.
And then it says Tahuata. That's where we got the boat hauled and fixed the sail drive.
Okay.
But everyone we spoke to, I mean, 9 out of 10 people that season that we spoke to said the same thing. They were like, where was my Pacific crossing that I was promised? You know, where is catching the sails for 2 weeks? But yeah, it was, I mean, I'm super glad I did it. I feel really proud. It was just me and my husband. So, you know, it was a big undertaking for us, but I am so glad I did it. And, I'm so happy to be
go
here.
back. Well, you're going to go another way, right? Are you going to go all the way around?
Probably not all the way around. At least not like right now.
Okay.
But yeah, we're on our way to Australia. That's, you know, where I'm from and where my family is. So we'll at least pause there for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the plan. Of course, you know, things always change.
All right. So let's show everybody where you went after this.
So we went from the Marquesas here. You zoom out, and then it's just southwest of here is another. Yeah, see those? Yeah, if you zoom in just there, right where your mouse is. Sorry, up to the right a little. Yeah, see those atolls up on the top of the screen? Yeah,
okay.
So that's the Tuamotus, and we sailed into Roroya, which is all the way on the right-hand side of your screen right now. Those 2 ones that are sort of at right angles to the rest. Yeah, if you zoom in right there, just to the left.
Right here?
Nope, a little bit more left. Sorry. There's those 2 islands. Yep, the big one. That's Roroya. That's where we sailed into. If you've ever heard of like the Kon-Tiki story, that's you know, like the Kon-Tiki raft. That's, I think it's Tekume. I think that's how that's pronounced. But just to the south of that, you can't get in that atoll up there. But the one to the south is Roroya.
Yes.
And yeah, lots of people might be familiar with the Kon-Tiki story.
Yeah, tell that. What is it? I don't know. Maybe.
So it's a guy in the 50s, maybe the late 40s or 50s. He was from, the abridged version is basically he had an idea that the Polynesian islands were populated from South America. And so lots of people at the time were saying they can't be because you couldn't get from South America to Polynesia with the boats of the time. So he decided to build a boat with only the designs and the materials they had at the time and prove that you could do it. And basically it was a raft, and it took them like 101 days. And they floated across the Pacific, and this is where they landed without any navigation, without any steerage, anything like that. And so they landed on the windward side of Roroya, and there was people living there at the time, luckily. So they were able to get rescued, and he proved his point. Genealogy since now proved that his theory wasn't correct, but still, it was. I
read something about this years ago, and so they did do some what do they call it? Radions or whatever, DNA testing.
Like DNA testing, basically, I guess.
Charcoal or something.
I don't know too much about how that all works, but yeah. So it's a cool story, and I mean, I had read it plenty before I cruised, so it was really cool to get to go there. And so we went to Roroya. Another island is called Whakarava. That's quite a famous one, or it's Thor Heyerdahl. I'm sure I'm butchering that name. But
where's that one here? Or
Makemo. That's actually one of the biggest islands. It's one of the only high schools that's in this whole area. So all the kids fly from the other islands and go to Makemo and basically do boarding school there for 3 months at a time.
So you can get in here inside this. Is this okay? Wow.
So you have to time it with the tide and you know, the ocean conditions and stuff. I've got some videos of when it is like not at its best, and then when it's good and you don't even notice. You just, you know, it's just flat water, and it's like you're going through, you know, in between any 2 islands. But when the water comes out of there, when the tide's coming out, it just can really, especially if you've got waves coming on one way and the tide coming on the other, the waves will stand up, and it can get really uncomfortable and eventually.
And so how is it once you get in here?
Calm, champagne sailing. Like, I mean, it depends on the conditions, but if you've got wind blowing, sort of if you're on the windward side and protected, you can be sailing perfectly in 15, 20 knots of wind, and
Look how it's big.
it's they're really big. So if the wind's coming from the wrong direction and you have lots of fetch, then it can get choppy, but you can also usually get protection from wind wherever it comes from, although it's pretty consistent in this part of the world.
All right, so where'd you go after that?
We went to Tahanea. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen. That was beautiful. We saw coconut crabs there, and we swam with manta rays in that pass. You can sort of see on the north east side. Yeah, just there. There's a manta ray cleaning station there, so we swam with them for hours and hours and hours, and we just spent it was the best time. We got to go scuba diving with them and hung out with some really cool other cruisers in those clear light blue waters there. That was
so. Oh, I see. So
there's people
that live here.
They live there sometimes. There's a couple places that have little shacks, and they do.
Okay.
Yeah, they dry and collect copra, which is coconut that's they scrape out of the hull, and then it's pressed for oil. So they sell it to boats going past, and that's how a lot of people make their money. But then they also usually just do that for a few months a year. So they're there for a little while, and then they'll go back to wherever their family is, Tahiti or one of the bigger islands, for a few months.
This is
and then
incredible. So this is like very picturesque, and
we kept saying, this is what postcards were designed from, when people say postcards, this is what they mean, when people think of paradise, like these are the paintings that it was based off.
How long were you here?
Well, we were in the Tuamotus. In total we spent 7 months in the Tuamotus. We just got back from 5 months there, which was really, really lovely. And most of the time we were in uninhabited atolls, just moving slow, and sometimes it was just us, or sometimes it was just one or two other boats, and hanging out on the beach, swimming off the back of the boat, having fires. Just if we'd caught
Beautiful.
fish on our just like everything that we had really just dreamed of. We felt so lucky that last season we've had has just been everything. It's just been sort of a real highlight. It's beautiful.
And so then you came here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we actually came to Moorea for 3 months last year. We had a bunch of family and friends visit. So we were in Moorea for 3 months during the whale season. So you can swim with, it's one of the only places you can swim with whales just off your own boat. There's lots of laws surrounding, how far you have to be. There's a lot of legalities around what you can and can't do, which is amazing.
Right.
But you can, very, very, very good. That's, very happy for that. But it was amazing to be able to take the dinghy out and jump in the water and see these huge humpback whales day after day after day. Yeah, that was so. It just, the first time I saw one, I just got out of the water and I felt like I was dreaming or something. It didn't even feel like it was something that I had got to see. I felt like I'd just seen a movie or something.
Well, I dove with sharks, and I dove with dolphins, but I've never dove in, whatever, diving.
Diving.
Gone diving with whales.
Yeah,
I guess if I can do it with sharks, I can do it with whales.
Yeah, well, you can't. They're just so big. You look at them, and I realized that that thing's fin is the size of my dinghy. Like that thing's eyeball is like a basketball. I think as humans we're just not, it just doesn't compute sometimes that something that's that big and it's floating. That's bigger than my boat. The big whales are 60 feet.
Yeah. I hear some stories about people, running into them or.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I would like to do ever. But we found that during whale season, we much preferred to sail during the day than overnight. It just, it's a bit disconcerting,
Sure.
just knowing, and especially because there's a very distinct whale season. So it was easier for us to just choose to sail during the day and not do too many overnights.
That makes sense. And I heard I heard that video that you posted where you were underwater and you said,
Yeah.
what happens if you're underwater and you hear this sound? And I was like, what is that? Wow.
Yeah, that day after it had rained so hard the previous day, and then we went out and the water, the top couple meters of water was really murky, but we had seen it go, so we knew it was nearby, and we jumped in, and as it was making the sounds, as we were, it's like sort of here-ish, and we were swimming, you could feel where it was by where it was, like the reverberations were hitting you. And then it stopped for a minute, and then we felt it, and it was just right underneath us. Just, you could feel it was coming up right in your chest, and my sternum was like, you could, like, my eyeballs were vibrating. This thing was so loud. But it's not being aggressive. It's just talking to other whales far away. And so it just really slowly came up out of the water, out of the depths and to where we could see it, and just sort of, and they look at you, they know that you're there, and you can see that they're processing that you're there. And then
a big old eyeball looking at you.
Yeah, and just sort of one eye just looking at
You're
you. I'm like, I'm so small. It's funny. A bunch of family and friends and everyone, we didn't tell anyone to do this, but everyone, when they just pause and look at you, every single person just waves at them. There's just some sort of human response, like, hi, I'm here.
I'm not trying to hurt you. So Alex from Mississippi says, have you been around whale sharks? And I don't know my sharks. So what kind of sharks were those? I mean, what kind of whales were those?
These were humpback whales. I actually haven't even ever seen a whale shark. My husband has a couple times, and it's the highlight of his diving life. He loves swimming with whale sharks. Yeah, but I have not been so lucky.
Okay. All right. So is that in that area of the world?
I think whale sharks can sort of be in most areas of the world. There are areas where they're more common. When we were living in the Keys, actually, there was one spotted down near the Dry Tortugas while we were there, but we didn't get to see it. But yeah, I think they can be in most places. There's just areas where they're a bit more concentrated at certain times of the year.
Okay, so Alex says we do have them here I'm on the Gulf of Mexico. I'm in Alabama, right next to Mississippi. So, okay.
Cool.
Good to know. I need to know that about my own area. Okay, so you went to let's bring it up. I'm trying.
So
okay. So you were here. And then where? And then were you up here or?
Yeah, we're in both of those bays. They're both really beautiful bays. Opunahu, and then the other one is Cook's Bay. They're deep.
Wow.
As the bays here are, but there's little towns, and it's relatively, that's right next to Papeete, Tahiti, which is Papeete is the city on Tahiti, which is the capital of French Polynesia, and so it's quite nearby. And so there's a fair bit happening in Moorea. Yeah, that's a really nice cultural center. And then so if you just go to the left, if you see Ha'apiti all the way to the left, it's like HA''APITI down a
different island. Is it
no, it's
another island?
It's just a really, really beautiful. It's one of our favorite places we've been here. And so that's that's like a really famous surf break. It's like a mini Chapo, like the where the Olympics was last year.
Oh.
We were anchored there during the Olympics. That's not where the Olympics was held, but we were anchored there during the Olympics. And
right in here.
Yeah. Well, see where the really light blue water is. The dark blue is super deep, but down there. Yeah.
Oh,
You can see, I think if you scroll across, you can see a catamaran just to the right. There, yeah. I think you can see a couple boats there. Yeah.
okay.
So one of my favorite ways to anchor, you just anchor in super shallow water and hang back in the deep. It's
Okay.
so yeah.
Okay. So how long were you here?
We were there. I think we jumped around a couple times. We spent 3 months in total in Moorea, but we would spend you could only really go there in settled conditions at this place. So we would go between here and the bays, and then back, and then one of the other bays. And when the surf was good and the conditions were right to sail around, we'd come back. But if it gets too windy, because the mountains are very big in Moorea, so the wind really whips down. They had a storm here the other day that was supposed to be just, I think it was supposed to be 25 to 30 knots of wind. And with the mountains, the way that this sort of it pulls the wind and pulls it down, they ended up having 60-knot gusts. So
oh, wow.
A lot more than forecast.
And you were on the boat in that?
Not there. No, I'm really glad I wasn't. But we had friends that were there.
Okay.
We were over in the Tuamotus, which is where I was when you contacted me, and those little atolls, and then we have sailed back to Papeete, to Tahiti, which is where we are now, in the capital city. I'm like, I'm right next.
So let me get there. Am I on the right island?
I don't have your screen right now.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so that whole thing is Tahiti, the big one.
Right.
Yeah, and then if you'll see Papeete up the north of the island. Yeah, so that's the capital of French Polynesia. It's a big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots going on there.
And so that just you can see Papeete Market at the very south at the very bottom of your screen.
Yes.
And then there's a marina just next to that. That's the marina that I'm in right now.
And this is it. Oh, wow. Okay. So how hard is it to check in to you check where did you check in first?
To French Polynesia, actually you can check in some out of the out islands. They have it's called the gendarmerie. It's a local police, and so you just go in to the office there, and you have all of your forms, and you have to have filled out a little form online as well. And if you've done that, you can go in and they give you sort of a preliminary check-in. But you used to have to come to Tahiti to fully check in, but now because we have such access to being online, right. If you do the forms online and then go to the gendarmerie in the small town, then you're all checked in. And there's some hoops to jump through beforehand, but it was one of the easier countries for us. And
what kind of hoops?
So you have to have already got your visa to French Polynesia. So if you're not, a European citizen, then which most of the world's not, then you have to have gone and gotten your visa at a French embassy before you even leave to get to French Polynesia. So what most people do when they're leaving from Panama is go to the French embassy in Panama, and you apply for a visa. Usually people do a long stay visa, which is a year-long visa, and that has to be approved before you can even leave Panama. So it has to be approved. You go in to the office, you get the stamp in your passport, and then you can leave to sail. So, and that can take up to 6 weeks from applying to actually getting the visa.
So you make yourself comfortable.
Yeah. And that's one thing I think catches a lot of people up when they're getting ready to leave. Last year, we spoke to dozens of people who were ready to leave and just went to the embassy to get their visa, and then found out they had to wait another month or 6 weeks before they could even leave Panama.
That's good. We covered it here on the Salty Podcast. You got to, if you're going to French Polynesia from Panama, and you need to be patient. 6 weeks maybe.
Yeah. So, and you've got to book an appointment, and then that you've sometimes got to wait a couple weeks for an appointment. So a lot of people missed, good, really great weather windows, or, were delayed, especially if you only have one season in the Pacific. If you're making your way to New Zealand or Australia for cyclone season, 6 or 8 weeks is a long time to lose, and just sitting in an anchorage.
What's the best time to go across?
Generally, except, the general like normal time is somewhere from like March to June. Lots of people leave. We left at the end of February. We know lots of people that left in January. We also know people that left far later in the year, especially from Mexico. People come down later. But generally like March, April, May, I think is definitely the most common time to leave. But there are rallies that leave at that time as well. So sometimes if you leave in March, you can be in these remote places with like 40, 50
group
other
of
boats.
people. Yeah.
Big group, which is lovely to be social, but sometimes I think those big groups coming in, it's like, hang on, I'm sailed here to be, everyone thinks that they need on a deserted island, and suddenly there's 150 sailors on that island. So yeah,
everybody wants to get together and have events and stuff, and you're just like, oh no, I want to experience this just with my husband.
I know. It's great fun to be able to experience these places with other cruises and meet people from all around the world, doing all, at all different ages and stages on different boats in different, you meet people and make such great friends with people that you probably wouldn't meet them and make friends with them otherwise, unless you're out in the middle of nowhere together.
Goose has a question. Do you
like put up some money? Did I lose internet? Like put up money in case you go. Oh, am I still live? Are we back?
Hold on, let me get my microphone working again.
Oh, a repatriation bond, I think that is. I don't think so. We didn't have to put up money, but you do.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. You do have to have either a flight out or a long stay visa. So then you have to have like health insurance for the time you're here, and I think that's it. I think the way out of getting there's a few ways out of paying that bond, and I think one of them is saying that you have a flight out. And then I think there's one other way, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Maybe it's just if you either have a short stay visa or you have to have a flight out.
Okay. Yeah. Return airfare in case you overstay your visa.
Yeah, I think the return airfare is a funny one. It's like, I sailed in on my own boat. Why do you need me to fly out on a plane? It was really made by someone who understands boats and sailing, but you have to have your you have to have a flight out. It doesn't actually matter where it's to. It doesn't have to be home. It doesn't have to be. It's just a flight out, which is really silly.
Out of French Polynesia.
French Polynesia. Yeah, it's like, do you want me to leave my boat here alone? Like, no.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't make sense. And what does that run? What, like to the closest?
Well, there's a few ways that most people do it. Either you book a flight. You just have to have a flight booked. You don't have to actually take it. I don't know how bad that is.
So you gotta. Hopefully, you can cancel it. I mean,
yeah. Well, the other thing is that it's not the only country that does that, and there's lots of services now where you pay like a $10 or $15 fee, and they book you a flight, give you a ticket, issue you a ticket. You really are booking a flight, but they manage the cancellation on their end. So you basically pay them $10 or $15 to book you a flight, and then it will be cancelled, and that's all you'll pay is $10 or $15.
There's something similar in the Bahamas that I've seen. Like if someone is flying from here to get on a boat, that can be problematic because they think, why do you not have a return flight? Well, I'm leaving on a boat. So sometimes you have to book that. You got to trick them with that too. It seems like a racket, doesn't it?
You're like, I'm trying to do the right thing here, and they will sort of want you to do it a bit cheeky. But I think that's one of the
Force
hardest
you to
things.
lie.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest things about cruising, I think, is that I think prior to the internet, everyone was a bit more accepting. Prior to cruising with the internet, everyone was a bit more accepting of, you don't always have the most updated regulations, or it takes a while for regulations to come into play, or there was a bit more leniency. Whereas now that everyone has internet, everyone also expects you to always have, well, we made this regulation last week and you should know about it. And you're like,
yeah.
How?
The expectations are higher now that you
Absolutely.
need to know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, we do so much research, but also you can't constantly be checking for everywhere you go all the time for any tiny little update. So it is a bit, and I mean, as long as if you're told of some sort of new thing, I think you just have to remember, this isn't my country, I'm visiting here, and you have to accept it with grace and know that, I've sailed to this place to visit it. It's not, I'm not from here. It's not my home. So
yeah.
I
don't need to change everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can just experience it, and that's all good. You can take it with grace, but it's one of the hardest things is just always being outside that box. You never fit, I'm here as a tourist, in and out. I'm here on a cruise ship, in and out. I'm here on a charter boat, in and out. You're like, no, I'm here with my home, and I'm going to stay a while, but not too long, and then I'm going to move on. And, whether it's with food or buying fuel, or even just, plugs for your phone and shore power plugs. And I mean, and saying that, we haven't really been to a dock in a year other than this one. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's a tricky part of cruising, but also kind of what makes it fun and interesting.
Yeah, and the people have been you have good experience with that?
Sounds like yeah, definitely. Most people, I think, when you're in a big city, people are always a bit more likely to just have their blinders on and go about their business. But the second you get out and, you speak to people in small towns or these isolated anchorages, people are just people, and they just are happy to get to know someone new and have a chat and share a bit about their life and learn a bit about yours and all of those things. And I'm actually really excited for our next sort of season as we go on. We've got some cool stuff planned with some of the local people in the Cook Islands in particular, but just
So really let's talk about what your next step is.
Yeah, so in the next few weeks, in the next week really, we're going to be leaving from here, from Papeete, and headed east. So we're going to do a couple of jumps through other islands in French Polynesia, like Bora Bora and just a little further north.
Right here?
Up north of that one. Yeah, if you zoom out a little bit more.
I saw it here somewhere. Here it is.
So, Bora Bora, Maupiti. We'll do a few stops there, and then you'll probably have to zoom out and type the next ones in, because they're very small. So if you zoom all the way out, way out, there's going to be Atutaki. So it's to the east of that. It's
like one of these or one of these.
Yeah, it's further east. It's still another 400 miles east of those. Yeah.
Like so then,
that's it. I think it's just there. That I don't know how to say that word.
Arutanga.
Arutanga. Yeah, I think that's it. Is that Atutaki? Yeah, that's Atutaki. That's the capital of the Cook Islands. So that's where we need to check in to the Cook Islands.
Okay. Cook Islands. Okay. Looks like there's a little strip here.
There is an airstrip there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a tiny little pass. You see it just there on the left of your screen.
This is it?
Yeah, that's a pass. We're going to take our boat through that.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm super keen on it.
You can get a boat through there, huh?
Yeah, apparently it's 3 meters deep, but you can see it's obviously the tide's moving right then.
Yeah. Wow.
There's some moorings
Alex has a question. Do you take most of your food with you, or is it readily available for reasonable money?
This is this is sort of a personal thing, I guess, but for us, we absolutely take most of our food with us. When we left Panama, we had enough provisions for what we hoped to be a year of cruising. So we had enough rice, pasta, beans, dried fruit, nuts, all of those types of things. And then we would just supplement with fresh fish that we caught and, some stuff from the markets along the way. Look, just like local produce, whatever was like in season, because we found that exponentially reduces your food cost, like amazingly so. And we've done that when we first left the States. We were provisioned for 6 months, and then when we left the States again, we did 9 months, and then when we left Panama, we did a year, provisioned for a year, and it's now been a year, and we've used not everything but a lot. And so now we've just done another stock up, because otherwise food in Papeete is like $250 US for like a grocery bag of food. It's just we'll eat away at your
cost here too.
So quick. Yeah, absolutely. It's it's all different prices, but it's just so expensive. It's so expensive on a cruising budget in particular. So yeah, I have my little spreadsheet online on my computer with like the amount of rice per person per day times 1.5, and rice and beans and quinoa and all of those things. And I don't always get all of them depending on where we are. It's not always available, but I always go through it whenever I'm provisioning as a reminder of things to remember to get, olive oil, vinegar.
Who's the cook?
It goes between us, actually. My husband loves to cook, and he's a very good cook. So he does cook a fair bit, probably 60% of the time. And then I cook the rest. Maybe it's 50-50, but he probably
Well,
cooks
it's
more.
got to be tough planning meals for when you take on a couple of more people. I mean, then your food budget is double.
Well, yes, it has been doubled, but then we also do it like per person. So it's sort of part of the crew. The way we advertised it was like, you can stay on our boat and sail around. We'll pay for fuel, and obviously food, and then we set like a budget, like a certain amount of money per person per day, and then we pull that together and use that as a kitty to get provisions here, especially for fresh food and stuff like that.
Okay.
Otherwise it would just break
the bank. Yeah,
completely. But yeah, stocking up when you can, especially when you're in cheap places. Like when we were in the States, we'd go to Costco and just stock up as much as we could. We did big shops. And then in Panama, it was the cheapest food we've ever seen anywhere in the world, and we just filled.
Okay, so stock up in Panama. Okay, this is where you get your French Polynesia visa or whatever it is you said, and you got to stock up on your food.
Absolutely, and alcohol as well. Any alcohol that if anyone drinks alcohol and you want to do it in French Polynesia, bring it with you. It is prohibitively expensive.
Prohibitively
expensive, yeah. But they also don't mind how much you check in with, so you can bring in as much as you want to.
Do you have to grease the palm there? Do you have to say?
No, no, it's really French
Nobody's
Polynesia.
going like this.
Absolutely not. They're very. I think it's because they're part of the military here, is to be a gendarmerie, and it's a very esteemed position in the community. And it hasn't been our experience, at least, at all. Everyone's been it's definitely in other countries. It's felt a little different.
Hear that.
It's been really nice. It's been very. Sometimes they're a little bit, I mean, it's a French country. They're sometimes a little bit like, you definitely got to try to speak French.
Okay. Yeah. I saw that in St. Martin, in the Caribbean, the French side.
The French side. I say with love.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a little different than, say, Mexico, where, we're giving the dive instructors all this cash, and they're taking it. My friend Dana, I'll go ahead and say this. We were in St. Martin.
Oh, I think I lost you again there. Uh-oh.
Good job.
And are we back?
Yeah. My friend said after we had been in St. Martin on the French side, she said, "These people don't know how to take our mighty dollar like the guys in Mexico do." I mean, they're just nice to us, and we're just giving them money, I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't seem really interested in.
No. I mean, it's just so I think it's a bit of a different attitude, but it's been very, very above board, so to speak, in French Polynesia. Other countries it's been a little different. We refused to pay the non-official, the non-receipted payment in Panama, and it took us 6 weeks to get our cruising permit there, which was fine. We weren't in a rush, so it was all good. But then other places, it's just like there's just sort of ways that you can make things go better for you and with officials, and we've found that to be the best way to do it is just like always dress nicely when you go into offices, and if it's a country where they come onto your boat, always have a cold drink for whoever the official is, because they're in a full uniform and boots and hot and sweaty, and if you can say like, hey, would you like a Coca-Cola or a Sprite or something, Coca-Cola is pretty universal. Everyone's like, oh, I'd love a cold drink. And then I think it goes to show like you're friendly and prepared and thoughtful, and you're not, you're not just being rude. And I think also everyone is in a better mood if you have a nice cold drink when you're hot. So there's lots of different ways that we've found. I mean, not in some places, like you absolutely bribes are essential to get through a place, but we've found the best way is to just like always be really presentable and really kind and happy to wait, not be in a rush. That's
interesting. To be always presentable. So not in a bathing suit, not what do you mean?
So when you go into an office, if you have to do anything official, if you have to check into a country, or you have to extend a visa, or you have to even like if you have to go into a post office to get like a paid post stamp or something like that, we've found you get treated a lot better if you're, if like my husband always makes sure he wears like a collared shirt and long pants, and I always wear something where like my shoulders and my knees are covered, and I've had a shower and my hair's pulled back, or at least not, I don't look like
this is great advice. You can hear it right here on the Salty Podcast. That's great. That's great info. That's the kind of stuff people need to know,
Yeah, well, we've spoken to lots of people where they were really grumpy with how they were treated at a certain office, and they said they were really treated disrespectfully, and we were like, oh, we had a completely different experience.
What were you wearing?
Yeah, and the guy was like, well, I just was wearing my boardies, and they made me put a shirt on, and it's like, you're basically going into, you are going into a government office there. You're not just, you're not just going into the local fishing store. And I know it doesn't come easy to as cruisers, because we're always in a swimsuit, or, I live in a sarong, and but just to do those little things that show that you really are like respecting the country you're going into,
sure,
or the person's position, because a lot of these people, especially if you're in a small town or a small village or something like that, like it's a very respected position, because it's often one of the few government positions, or a few continuous paid positions as well. So that you're speaking to a respected person, and I think it pays to dress like that, to show them that
great advice. That'll make a clip from this podcast. I do clips And that's a great clip right there, because that's the kind of stuff people need to know. So there's a lot of people that watch my channel and my podcast that are dreaming. Like there's a lot of veterans that'll watch, and maybe not live, but in the replay. But there's also a lot of new people. How did you make this happen, as far as, a budget, and did you do a bunch of
Yeah.
saving, and then or do you earning as you go?
Yeah, I mean, really a bit of both. So we had this dream and we decided like this is what we want to do, and so we just save every penny. And what really worked for us was working out what we guesstimated cruising would cost per day for us on our boat with our
And what did you come up with?
At the time, we came up with $50 a day, like not necessarily
Wow.
$50 every day, but $50 a day over the course of the month or the year, which is less
An
than
average.
that is less than it does cost. But I mean, that also depends on your boat, and how much you need, how much repairs you need, and how much love your boat needs to keep going, and where you're cruising as well. So we just came up with that number. And it wasn't really important that it was wrong or right, but that number helped us think every time that we had something that was, say, $100, we were like, is that thing that's $100 worth 2 days cruising to us? And that sort of allowed us to make it something that seemed like such a distant reality. Actually,
and that's just like a meal in certain places.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, in Key West, like things are expensive. And so that's sort of how we conceptualized saving to go cruising, because it was such a far-fetched dream for us when we first said like, ooh, you can go cruising. And then we saved. We ran our boat as a charter business for 3 years. We bought our boat out of charter, so it was a lot cheaper than a similar boat that hadn't been chartered. And then we chartered it for 3 years, and we ran 2 other boats as Airbnbs. So in the Keys, at the marina. And so people would stay on those, and that was just 100% like kiddie money. Like, I mean, the profit from that was 100% kiddie money. And then, when we sold those, freedom chips, as we call them. So that was sort of how we got our little nest egg, was by chartering. And for those 3 years, or COVID was the beginning of it, and then the second 2 years really, we just did not have a single day off. We worked literally 16 hours a day, every day. We just didn't have a break. But because every time that we got, like, oh, hey, we want to go on this charter, we were pretty tired, but we'd look at it and be like, oh, well, that's a week cruising in one afternoon in a sunset sail, or whatever it was, I can't remember the exact, like, we came to know like, oh, well, a sunset sail is worth this much cruising time, and this is worth that much.
Yeah.
And so
it sounds like you both were equally motivated.
Oh, it was nearly all we thought about. And it wasn't just those 2 years that we were planning on cruising, but that was the final push to be able to save to actually to go. And I think the other thing is like the amount of stuff we said no to, because we knew what we wanted to say yes to, which was cruising. So we just so often someone would, say like, do you want to go out, or do you want to, do this or do that? And we just knew what we wanted to spend our money on. And obviously things come up, like life is expensive and there's things you can't say no to spending money on. But every time that we could, and it wasn't something we really wanted, wasn't, even if we really wanted to do it, but it didn't lead us to going cruising, we had to say no. And there was a lot of sacrifices. But now, like when we set off, and since we've set off, we've just been so glad time and time again that we were like so one tracked. Like we had our blinders on. There was so many amazing things we could have done, but we just knew we wanted to go cruising, and we were just like dead ahead to it. So that's how we actually left to go cruising. And since then, I will go home. We'll go home wherever home. We have a home in the States with my husband's family, and home in America. Home in Australia with mine. But we have done one stint of 9 months. We went when we were in Panama. We went back to the States and saved up every penny again. Worked for 9 months, saved it up to go to cross the Pacific.
And was your boat was it on a mooring ball or something?
It was in a marina on the Caribbean side in Bocas del Toro, a marina called Red Frog Marina. So it was, and we had some friends there as well. So they were looking at it, making sure it was all good.
Sure.
And that was really hard, not being on the boat for 9 months and just dreaming of it. But we did the same thing. We said, okay, like every day we get work is another couple days cruising, and it was just head down, go for it. And then last year I went back to Australia and I did 8 weeks of like a sort of temp job where I was just working like 80 hours a week. And just,
what kind of job did you work? I mean,
well,
was it on a boat?
No, actually it's completely unrelated. I'm a paramedic. And so
okay.
I don't usually work with patients though, because I'm on a boat, but I now do like clinical governance. So I at the time I was helping basically do all the paperwork behind the scenes that allows.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Yeah. It was a really amazing opportunity for me to be able to keep it all going, and also get to go back to Australia and see my family and welcome my nephew into the world, which was amazing. So I just worked, and then it's easier to work that hard when you know why you're working that hard, I think. And I understand I'm also incredibly lucky to be able to have had that experience, to know what I'm going back to work, to work for and work towards. But it's been a combination of working really hard before we went, making lots of sacrifices while we're cruising. There's lots of things we say no to cruising because it's just not in our budget. But it allows us to keep sailing. So and the other thing is, the things that we love is like an empty beach, amazing ocean life, and like a blue sky. So the things we like to do aren't particularly expensive
once you get there.
Like when we were in the Tuamotus, it was, we just posted up on an uninhabited atoll, and like there is no shop for 150 miles around me. Like there is nowhere to spend a cent. So even though we'd just been in a city where we'd spent a fair bit of money, we just went out and we literally didn't spend a single cent for, I think it was like nearly 7 weeks, 6.5 weeks before we spent a single dollar. And just putting yourself in places like
discipline.
It's just like, it's what you find fun, like that's what we dreamed of, is just these open beaches. And you're still sort of spending the money because you've had to have bought the food or whatever it is and had the boat and everything to get there, but you don't see your cruising kitty going down in that time. And that's the thing. We love being out there anyway, but it's also really nice to be like, we're doing this and it's not actually right now costing me money to be here. So it's cool to be able to have that experience. And there's places you can do that everywhere. We did that in the Bahamas as well. There's lots of islands you can go to, and just, if you're stocked up, you can just post up if that's what you like doing, sitting on a beach and swimming in the ocean and chatting with other cruisers. There's
like Georgetown. You could just stay there forever, right? I mean, until hurricane season.
Yes, stay there. We loved Georgetown. Chat and chill is like, oh, what a spot.
Everybody talks about it. I haven't been yet. I haven't taken my boat there yet. But so what is next? After, are you flying home? Or are you going to be like
well, we'll
at the end of your season?
Yeah, so we're about to cyclone season is about to end here in the Pacific in the next couple weeks, really, and it's wrapping up, and so we will set sail westward now, and we'll go to the Cook Islands, probably stop in Niue, Tonga, and then from Tonga I'm actually flying back to Australia to do some more work for about another 6 weeks, top up the cruising kitty, and then my husband and our crew, that's why we decided to get some crew in, will sail just onto Fiji, and then I'll fly back and meet my husband in Fiji, and then that'll be maybe like July this year. And then between July and November, we'll sail down back towards Australia. So we'll sail through Fiji and Vanuatu, maybe stop in New Caledonia, and then sail to Australia. I say back, didn't start in Australia, but sail to Australia. And the plan is to be, well, we're not super sure, but I think that we will definitely take a good breather, a good break in Australia. We'll probably, put some roots down for a little while. Maybe, I don't know, maybe live on land for a little bit.
But not sell the boat, right?
If we can, we would love to not sell the boat. We would love to keep her so that we can keep cruising on her, even if it's just a season at a time or something. We need to get back to work. Life calls. But
you don't see this going on for the next 20 years?
I really hope, if we can, I would love to be able to keep the boat and be able to do a season in Vanuatu, a season on the Great Barrier Reef, a season in Fiji. I would love to keep doing that. Absolutely. I hope that we're able to. We always say, like, that's the plan. You just never know how the plan's going to change. But I don't have a huge interest in sailing either around South Africa or through the Red Sea. They're not, like, it's not calling to me. And I know that they're both tough sails, so I'm not like dying to get that around the world tick, even as amazing as it is. And the people that do it are phenomenal. It's just not calling my name, so I don't need to punish myself.
No. I have no interest in the lower 40s.
Yeah, I like to sail in the warm temperatures.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I think we'll stay. I really hope we can stay sailing.
We'll check back with you, after you've maybe gotten to Australia and see if anything's come to mind. And is there children in the future? Are they going to be little boat babies?
Yeah. Maybe. If we're lucky and that happens for us, that would be super cool. But probably not on a boat. I love boat families. I think it's so amazing when people do that.
Well, the kids are so much well adjusted. You want to stick them in schools and they just get ruined.
I'm actually staying with a friend at the moment because she's just at hospital this morning. That's why I was a little late sliding in.
She's having a baby.
Yep, she just had it this morning. She had her third baby boy.
Congratulations.
They're an amazing family, and they have been sailing for the last, I think, 4 years as well.
Okay.
And the kids have started school in the Marquesas. That first island group is where they went to school for the first time. They're a French family, so they speak French, which is helpful. And the first one was born, I think, in France, and then the second one in one of the Caribbean islands, and then this third one is here. So like international family, super cool kids on a boat. But it's just I think for us it'll probably be not.
Should I interview them?
Oh, I bet she would love that. Yeah. So Sophie, the mama, their boat's called Mama Beluga. I'm sure she would be into that. She's super. She's got a super.
I just love that whole dynamic of raising kids on a boat, and they just seem to be better people.
You go to Georgetown and you see these communities of boat kids just being the coolest kids, and they're planning hikes together, and they're on the radio, and they have amazing radio etiquette, and they can chat like normal people, but
they're like kids used to be, right? Back in the day when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, you went out and you you played, you went out and socialized.
They know how to play, and I think they know. You just have to be able to entertain yourself on a boat, and so they just do it. They just figure out how to entertain themselves.
I love it. Yeah, they're driving dinghies around. I just think it's awesome. Okay, well, I want to touch base back with you, when you get back home and see what the plan is at that point. And thank you so much for coming on and telling us you might have some people following you because there's a lot of people that want to do what you're doing.
Yeah, I will be less ambiguous as about where I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah, give us a clue.
Okay. I'm trying to be a bit better about posting.
Well,
I mean, I
I
haven't.
understand maybe you want to be ambiguous sometimes because of safety, but I thought maybe
Yeah.
that was it.
A little bit, but mostly I just originally started posting for family and friends. So no, I'm trying to get a little bit better because also it is like we're in such amazing places and we're so grateful and so lucky to be able to be seeing them. I want to be able to share them as well.
It's amazing. You're an inspiration. Well, thank you. I want to make sure I say your name right. Saskia?
Yes.
Yay. And I'm Tinsley. We both have kind of different names. But thank you so much. And I will touch base back with you and hopefully have you on here again. I like it when people come on, my repeat people. Again, thank you. And I always end in the same way. Thank you. And Salty Abandon out.